that in mind, I'm going to put a marker right here for our awesome archivist Dragon Rider X, letting him know we're getting into the game. I'm going to tab over to this screen, and this is normally the part where I would discuss the story so far, but as it stands, there's not a lot that's relevant for you guys. It's kind of its own thing. The KnightLites have been spending time in Waterdeep and been having many adventures besides, but one such adventure was they met a nearsighted dragonborn with a bit of a stammer named Rashal the Page Turner, and through their adventures and misadventures, Rashal has offered to chronicle their stories, and as such, they've been coming to Rashal with various questions, and recently the topic has turned to magic in the general. Are you playing? You're not playing. You're not playing. Heck.
We're playing Waterdeep.
The music. The music that I have picked out is not working, and it's upsetting me. Heck. Okay, fine. We'll use you instead. There we go. So, we fade in on the afternoon skyline of Waterdeep, with the KnightLites gathered on the street outside the Bookworm's treasure. The door is closed and locked, the blinds are drawn, and there's a not insubstantial amount of scuffling to be heard from inside. But if any of the KnightLites have tried the door prior to this moment, they're met with a, "If that is you, my erstwhile companions are not quite prepared for the educatory process. Just shan't be a moment. Just find as comfortable a position as you can on the stoop. I shall fetch you forthwith."
Take your time.
What would you like to do, KnightLites?
I mean, Morris probably just gonna lean up next to the door and just wait.
Okay.
Because, he's been in Waterdeep long enough. He'd probably this is about par for the course.
Are you leaning on the door in a way that you're gonna get beamed by it if it swings open?
No.
Okay, just checking.
No, he's gonna fall backwards.
I'm leaning on the other side.
Into it.
Okay, fair enough. What about the rest of you?
And he's probably sitting on the stoop.
Okay.
Probably feeding the birds or something.
I think Salcom just sat on the ground like he did with Braden back at the Yawning Portal.
Okay.
Aye.
Thump.
So, some time passes, not long, and the door to the Bookworm's treasure, the bookshop, opens up with a little tinkling of the bell, and Rashal steps out. Rashal, of course, being a short gold dragonborn with spectacles on the end of his snout, normally dressed in ink-stained robes, a little bit threadbare, now in lavish blue and gold robes, not dissimilar to what Pierce wears, but darker in shade and different iconography. It doesn't have the all-seeing eye of Force Grey on it, just a plain blue and gold, like scholar's robe. And perched on his head is a matching blue with gold trim fez with a tassel going down his back.
Right.
And he steps out, and he says, I hope you don't I hope it is not too much, but I took some liberties. It has been quite some time since I've had the opportunity to educate in any capacity, but as if especially not in formal or semi-formal capacity, precisely, yes. And I've rather I'm grateful for the opportunity. I've provided each of you with a place to sit and various utensils for the describing of notation and several pieces of parchment. Besides, would I to impose on the lot of you either blindfolds, which I have here, or if you are less inclined to simply cover your eyes as you see fit, you are of course welcome to refuse. But if you would permit me this indulgence. He seems entirely too excited.
I mean, why don't you take a blindfold, because this is something different.
Right.
Sure, let's go with it.
They're not like proper blindfolds. They're like scraps of ribbon used for bookmarks.
Because it's for Shawl.
Because for Shawl, exactly. So you tie the blindfolds around your head. If all of you doing this, yes. So, perhaps it would be advisable to mitigate any inopportune bumpage or spillage of effects, personal or professional, within the treasure. If you could perhaps join hands, I can facilitate the blind groping to ensure that everyone's modesty is intact. But perhaps this would be perhaps we should have done that before the blindfold, actually. No matter. Master Parnassus, there you are. That's me. Grabs your hand, Lawrence, and you hold the knives. And Miss Gambleson, if you could reach your rightmost arm over your shoulder. There you are. Thank you. And you feel Lawrence's hand, and you grab it. And Rochelle scuffles over to your other side and he grabs your other arm, kind of. He says, "And now, Master Coy, if you could present me your right arm, thank you." And so
flashbacks to the group building games back at summer camp.
Exactly.
Oh God, yes.
And after much hemming and hawing, you're all linked at the hands. And he says, "Do kindly not strain your bindings, as they are your friends and families." Required limbs and digits. Try to keep the restraints slack and follow me. And he starts walking. He stops and says, yes, quite. Master Parnassus, your left hand, thank you. And leads you all inside. To
following the dragon,
somewhere.
the dragon, the
Precisely.
dragon.
I was thinking more
So you guys all go inside. You don't go up the stairs. So you're still in the main room with the bookworm's treasure, and you don't go very far at all. You go like maybe 10 steps total. And after that, Rochelle lets your hand go, Lawrence. So you all stop, and then you hear some scuffling, and then from slightly further away, you hear If you do so desire to remove the offending blindfolds, now would be the most opportune time, I think. Yes.
Off it comes.
Take the blindfold off, and there's like desks, like actual like student desks with the folding like table platform thing. Arranged in the room. They're a little bit too small for the twins, but they're there. There's a stack.
Like the auditorium style desk?
Mm-hmm. Not the shitty ones that are only about 3 inches wide, like the full-length ones.
Nice.
There's an inkwell on each one with a quill in it, several sticks of like charcoal to write with if you so choose, and a big stack of papers. Rochelle is behind the counter, and there's 3 like big ass like chalkboard, like gray blue chalkboard slates on wheels behind him, and 2 of them already have notation on them. The leftmost one has lists of various spellcasters, and the rightmost one has the schools of magic. Rochelle is standing behind the desk, which he also has piled with notes, as well as like 4 tomes that are like open to various pages in front of him, looking completely pleased with himself.
like?
I think Connie like whistles appreciatively, like, "Wow, you really pulled out all the stops."
That is quite a setup
I
you've got
mean,
here.
Lawrence is nodding along like, huh, okay, I'm impressed.
It is no small honor for me to serve as the chronicler for your adventures, and it has not escaped my notice that you have sought me out for information, as well as the more professional aspects of scribbery. I am grateful, my friends, if I could call you as such, for the opportunity and the rekindling of the fire that has long laid dormant within my person.
As far as I'm concerned, Rashal, you have every right to call yourself a KnightLite. I don't know about my siblings, but that's how I feel.
A friend, in the very least.
Agreed.
Mm-hmm.
I do believe, Master Salcom, that my adventuring days are well behind me, but an opportunity such as this is not to be squandered. I have a lecture prepared, and then of course there will be ample time for questions, answers, and laboratory practice. Besides, if you would all kindly find a seat most comfortable for you. If you find you are lacking any requisite materials, I can certainly make arrangements.
It probably wouldn't be too
I think
long
Connie will
for-
find a seat.
Oh yeah, Lawrence be right there with her.
Again, the twins have a little bit of trouble getting into the desks. They're science for humans, but on the whole, they're functional, if a little cramped.
Huh. Sock definitely isn't going to complain.
I thought
Question is, can you get out again?
that will be the trick. Yes, I thought that the trappings of academia would not be amiss for this and other such lessons if they are necessitated. I will not require that any of you refer to me as Professor, but I would certainly not begrudge you the choice.
Professor Rashal or Professor Page Turner?
Page Turner is a title. I have not been gifted with the nomenclature, so to say, of many of you. Rashal is the only name that I was born with. Professor, simply Professor or Professor Rashal would be correct, though naturally I will respond to whatever you deign. What do you guys do?
Just yes, Professor.
Rashal beams. Like, he beams so much the, like, ridges on the back of his head perk up a little.
Famous golden shine.
Yes. And he says, I thought a general primer into the workings of magical theory, and then a more specialized understanding of practical magic would be the matter for the evening. If there are no objections, we can begin promptly.
Sounds like a plan.
As many of you are likely aware, there are individuals, organizations, and even lesser forms of life, or no life at all, that can affect the world around them in ways both bombastic and subtle. We call this affectation of the world with seemingly minimal input magic. But as anyone who called forth a spell can tell you, it is a flexing of the will more so than the muscles, and it can strain just as easily. I needn't remind you all of your heroic adventures in Undercliff to provide an immediate example of what happens when those muscles fail to the strain.
Lawrence, for his part, is just like, just rubbing his burn, like, right, yeah.
There are many subdivisions, classifications, if you will, of practitioners of magic. I have listed a few here, some terms you may be familiar with, some you may not. Not the least of which, to begin with, the wizard. The wizard, as you may know, is one not naturally gifted with magical aptitude, but through rigorous study and the application of the mind, can call upon the forces to change such things and affect the world around them with the will through learned repetition, formulae, and practice. Master Averil, myself, and many of your associates count themselves among the ranks of that which is colloquially referred to as wizard, or mage, perhaps. Sorcerers, like wizards, affect the world around them with the strength of their will and can call upon rather dynamic displays of magical prowess. The difference, he holds up a claw, while wizards are studious and intellectual, sorcerers were the magical equivalent of nobility. They were born into their position and deuced if they could explain how they do what they do. I mean, no offense, of course, Master Parnassus, but I believe I am correct.
And Lawrence just waving a hand, like, no offense taken.
The priest or the cleric, depending on whom they reside, through their faith and their outreach of their own will to a powerful entity, oft referred to as divine, gain a different form of mastery. Call it a blessing if you wish. I prefer to think of it as drawing upon a source of power, much like the wizard draws upon their own mind, and the sorcerer their heart. Clerics draw upon an outside force, which colors the abilities that they possess. Knights, or paladins, do so in a similar fashion, but notably couple it with their militant training. Martial casters, these are oft referred, combining warfare, or at the very least self-defense, with an array of supporting spells that, on the whole, affect our perceptions and the world around us in lesser degrees than that of their more primarily magical counterparts. The so-called Eldritch Knight does much the same as the Paladin, but through different sources. It is my firm belief that these and Paladins are very similar in structure, and thus should be counted equally. Druids, or naturalists, are much like clerics. They draw from a source to affect the world around them, but our world is saturated with magical energy, and especially places where this coalesces and collects over time. Druids are drawn to these places, normally old and out of the way. These sources grant them naturalistic talents, as I am certain all of you are aware, due to Miss Gambelson's proclivities. Am I going too quickly?
Glances up from the note-taking.
Like looking around at each of you. Am I proceeding too quickly?
No,
Nope.
maybe.
More
No, carry on.
Like, no.
Master Sorghum and Master Koi have recently heard me make mention of bardic institutions. So-called, they draw upon the source of, in a way, their heart, similar to that of a sorcerer, but more so a different tack entirely. I would reckon it more to the abilities of the priests or clerics than of the sorceress variety. Bards manifest their will through artistic expression, muse, if you will. These muses, these inspirations, fuel their ability to affect the world around them, and, as is often the case with artists, sufferable or insufferable though they may be, often in bolstering their comrades and driving away the dreariness that can exist in, well, existence. Next, within my notes, we have seers and mystics. I could not begin to tell you how they work, if they work. I am not convinced that they do. I am not convinced that the things that happen around us do so with any form of structure aside from the random, and I am not convinced that these so-called predestinations are visible to those calling themselves mystics. There are certainly a lot of liars within their ranks, or those who would seek to deceive and gain a living, I suppose, with their predictions, but there are certainly more of those than the genuine article, if, in fact, the genuine article exists. I would take caution, my friends, if there is a seer offering to look into the beyond and tell you what they see. Make note of how many coins are in your purse when speaking to them and when you leave. Shaman are similar to clerics and to druids, with more spiritualistic tendencies. The animism exhibited by some Goliath tribes, the adherence to the ancestors of the noble orcish clans, the fealty to dragons seen amongst kobolds. These are all examples of shamanism. There is argument to be made that there is no true distinction between shamanisms and clerics, or even to clerics and druids, but I say it is a worthwhile distinction. You see, a druid will care about the balance of nature and seeing as much life as possible go into the future. The balance of civilization and things that grow is required to sustain both. The growing places are necessary to fuel the same progress. Waterdeep, as a convenient example, would cease to exist, my friends, if not for the ample growing land and forested areas that make up its surroundings, to say nothing of the sea. Whereas shaman are more focused on the spirits that inhabit these places, be them souls of those whom have passed on, entities similar to a cleric's gods, or, in some cases, manifestations of raw magical energy associated with, often, the land itself, though the divine aspects of the latter are certainly a matter for debate. warlocks.
Scribble.
Warlocks are somewhat unfortunately named and unfortunately described. Many texts speak of selling the intangible to demons. Poppycock, I assure you. Warlocks are individuals who draw upon a source, much like clerics, druids, and shaman, but in a more direct capacity. A cleric will tell you that its abilities are granted by its chosen divine. Sometimes those are removed. Personally, I think the cleric didn't get enough sleep if such abilities are removed. A warlock makes physical or perhaps magical or perhaps spiritual contact with an entity, and a conversation is derived, and terms are discussed. My friends, warlock and term should always be hand in hand. Read the fine print and make certain that everyone is agreeable to the terms of the contract if a warlock is involved. Then, the service is rendered, often in the part of the entity with magical abilities, and in part of the warlock to serving the ends of that entity as fulfilled by the contract. Now, this all may sound a bit dubious, but it is no more difficult nor terrifying than filing one's taxes.
Sounds pretty terrifying to me.
Yes, but as a shopkeep, I tell you, I would rather commune with the Archfey than try to navigate the Waterdevian bureaucracy.
Lawrence starts looking around like, okay, where's the really stiff alcohol? Because I need a drink thinking about taxes.
I think Connie in the corner of her sheet just notes down NB. Waterdevian taxes are nonsense.
Yes. And certainly last, but by no means least, we have petty mages and what I'm referring to as augmented vocation. That is, those who have minor magical aptitude and apply it in unusual ways. For example, the troubadour on the street using a levitation charm on a piece of rope and standing atop it while playing his tune, or the, forgive me, Master Coy, cut purse, casting an invisibility charm upon himself. Are there any questions of my distinctions and definitions for magical aptitude?
I think Connie raises a hand.
Miss Gambleson, like, points at you, like, properly, like, with a... He's got, like, a little pointer stick that he's been, like, tapping on the whiteboard with, and he just, like, points it at you with a big smile on his face.
For people with minor magical aptitude, as you described, how do they usually come about it? Is it a case of if they studied harder, they'd be in one of these other categories, or is it a case of that's all they get?
I am given of the opinion, though it is hotly debated in such circles, that anyone has the capacity for magical aptitude. What we lack is proper facilities, education, and opportunity. You could compare such to literacy. Not everyone who is literate can read at the same rate or the same level of structure as anyone else. Just because you know your letters and can write your own name doesn't mean that you should be paging through legal documentation. I think much is the same that is true here. If time and application and most importantly discipline is given to these petty mages, these minor magically gifted individuals, they could blossom into wizards or clerics or some such thing. But the problem is that those in a position to teach are not always in the vicinity of those with the ability.
Connie goes back to scribing.
Questions?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, Master Sorghum.
Earlier you said something about the arcane storm, how that relates with Lawrence's magic type.
Forgive me if I misspoke. No. The incident at Undercliff is representative of any magic user failing to control the forces at war within themselves and bring order to the chaos that is often magical application. Have you ever dropped something, Master Sorghum?
Yes.
You failed to catch something thrown, or something was heavier than you realized, and your strength failed you. The exact notion, but applied to the will of the caster, is, well, results in your adventure in Undercliff. I understand there was a rather distraught young lad at the epicenter of the storm.
And Lawrence nods and says, if I may, Professor.
Yeah. Master Parnassus, the floor is yours.
And, he'd turn to the others and say, is there between this? He does the finger snap and produce flame. Banishes it, and this. So he points at his own burn from when he was a kid. That's discipline.
So, if I were to, in a sense, have my magic fail, could that be me?
Quite so, yes. The danger is extreme. That is why it is often urged that spellcasters pursue magical energies of their peer in accordance to their biology and their experience reigning in these forces. Levels, if you will. Levels of spells.
What can cause a spell to fail like that? Like, if I were to cast Cure Wounds on Braden, what would I have to be afraid of causing something else to happen?
Very little. If you're experienced enough with the spell or others of its nature, it is in the casting of a spell the first time or beyond one's means that can be bothersome, intrusive, or dangerous. Fatigue could certainly play a part in the potency of a spell, as well as one's emotional state. I am certain you have all heard, read, or seen an outburst of a magically gifted individual causing vibration in the air and ground, perhaps the shuddering of the walls, or the over-knocking of various decorations in the room that you're in extreme cases, perhaps even vigorous expulsion of such decorations if they are of inadequate weight. In severe cases, a wizard or sorcerer or any such of these individuals, when subjected to fatigue and emotion and often desperation, can channel this magic to great personal harm, but to undeniably great magical effect. There are reports, numerous, of pyromancers incinerating themselves, or even heroic sacrifice to defeat some great evil, and to do so with magic. Was that adequate for you, Master Sorghum?
Yeah. It's good to know I don't have to fear trying to heal one of my siblings. I don't have to fear possibly incinerating them.
There are concepts. Master Koi, forgive me. I don't. I am uncertain that you will have immediate understanding of what I am about to discuss, but I believe all of your assembled friends, family and compatriots will understand. Each of you, I assume, have felt the fatigue that comes about from strenuous magical activity, much like calisthenics or in the heat of battle exertion for survival. You can, it should be noted, go beyond this fatigue, and while it does force the magic to cease in an attempt to preserve body and spirit, you can invoke that energy more so at severe personal harm, but it is possible.
And Lawrence probably lets out a very shaky breath. He says, "You're referring to things like blood magic, correct?"
Not necessarily. No, blood casting is a discipline, a specific form, much like pact magic, pact arcanism, or elementalism, or even prayer, Master Parnassus. No, I am referring to utilizing one's spirit to rejuvenate the aforementioned levels. It is a damaging practice, but it exists. With all due respect, I will not instruct you on its use, but understand that locked away within each of you, including you, Master Koi, is the opportunity to turn whatever tide needs be turned in exchange for injury, consciousness, sanity, or perhaps even your life.
So it's more of a last-ditch effort to get out of trouble.
Quite so, yes. But I would be remiss if I did not mention its existence.
Lawrence back taking notes.
Now,
You're comparing magics to levels. Is there a limit on the levels?
a priest would tell you otherwise, but I have reason to say no. There are not. If a number of like-minded magists are gathered and proper resources are consumed, proper formulae followed, one could travel into history, written or not yet written, could translocate the city of Waterdeep or destroy it entirely, could theoretically cease all existence if they so desired. But such things are just terribly complicated and far beyond the reach of any one individual, mortal or so-called divine, I would say. Magic can cause great wonders, Master Sorghum. Great, terrible wonders. The likes of which a cobbler or a hunter or a smith could never dream of. It's always been a source of wonder and prestige and fear for many people.
What they don't know.
Whilst we have categorized the wielder of these arcane energies, the energies themselves can be quantified Thusly, he points at the other board. He says, through time and study, several magists, wizards, and so on have quantified these energies into 9 forms. Though these are not all inclusive, and some overlap, we do refer to these quantifications of energy as schools of magic. There is the Universalist School, which is by far the largest school. If we cannot quantify the energies in any other way, it is relegated to the Universalist School. From there,
None of the above.
Precisely. From there, we have abjuration, the bolstering of one's forces, protection, and various ways, or the destruction of that protection as needed. Conjuration, the ability to call something from one place into another place. Divination, the ability to understand and gain information from the magical and corporeal worlds around us, sometimes to bolster, but always to observe. Enchantment, rather inaccurately named, enchantment is not the effects of Azure Edge, for example, or the calling of a flame to a sword hilt, but in the understanding and control of so-called higher beings, emotional state, mental capacity, the control and intonation of behavior, all fall in the purview of enchantment. Evocation, the more bombastic of the schools, for the powerful displays of force, either in weal or in woe. Illusion, rather like its larger cousin, evocation, except none of it is real. The flash and the dazzle with none of the destructive capacity. Necromancy, any such magic to affect the dying, the dead, or that which is left behind after such a state. And transmutation, simply put, the transference of an object, substance, or being from one state into another. Most notably, gold into lead. Oh, no, wait. Lead into gold, which I assure you is not possible. Not permanently, at least.
Scribble, scribble, scribble.
Are there any questions up until this point?
So, with transmutation, is it just... do they just keep banking on continuing to fool people?
I don't think that it's necessarily an intent for deception, Master Parnassus. There's a certain benefit to be had from transmuting the boulder, blocking the exit to your cave into water, and letting it flow out again, so that you might find your own egress, or perhaps, excuse me, or perhaps to transmute the murderous bandit into a harmless stone statue.
Fair point. Thank you.
So,
Yes,
Is
Master
there-
Sorghum.
is there a way you could take something like one of Lawrence's spells, the one where he throws fire, and make that something else?
The not in the way that you're musing, Master Sockham, but all Master Parnassus is doing is converting the energy with the strength of his will. I believe Master Parnassus would most fit the sorceress distinction. So, through the strength of his heart and his blood and his will, is taking the magical energy that pervades, and in the case of a flame, simply forming it into a burning state and reaction, and then doing something with it. You could take that same energy through a different process and form a crystal of ice, or a burst of wind, or even, as the occasion may call for, the invigorating energies of light and healing, or those same energies could be converted by a appropriate spellcaster to lift them from the ground and fling them into the sky.
So it's all about how you... Sorry.
Go ahead.
So it's all about how you manipulate the energy.
Precisely, yes. As you see here, there are several distinctions, occupations of those who can manipulate that energy, and the certain disciplines and abilities that they are taught in their vocation. And here you see the lists of the excuse me, quantification of those self-same energies.
I think Connie raises a hand.
Miss Gambleson points at you again.
Do you have any examples of a spell in the Universalist category? Because I stumped for an example.
I do. And in fact, yes, not so much a spell per se, as spells are created by, forgive me, wizards. And wizards, naturally, try to understand the world around them, magical and otherwise. However, there are magical phenomenon, that would not necessarily quantify as a spell per se. For perhaps the most immediate example would be the ability of a dragonborn to breathe fire.
Ah, I see.
One could argue that is in the evocation school, but there are no rites rechanted, no motions emoted, and no reagents consumed. I simply draw in a breath, and through some biologic process, exhale a gout of flame. He puffs a little, smoke ring out of his mouth.
Back to scribble, scribble, scribble.
I personally would call it conjuration more than evocation, but, well, my peers disagree. From here, I would turn from the general to the specific. Do any of you gathered here wish to know more about your own abilities? I do wait with bated breath for an answer from Master Coy.
Just looking at Brayden.
Braden was like at him, like, why me?
As your compatriots have repeatedly mentioned, you are rather inaccurately quoted as lacking in magical ability. This is simply not so. You simply have not fostered the proper discipline to draw out your magical potential. If I have perhaps sown a seed or a proverbial fire within your heart, I can certainly offer you some material and guidance on the path of the proud tradition of magical aptitude.
Well, it's definitely all very interesting. It's just more, I wouldn't know where to start.
A cantrip, probably.
Quite. Cantrips, for those of you who may not be aware, he turns to the middle slate board and starts writing. He says, cantrips are minor charms, sometimes called orisms.
Alright, hold on, back in a second.
Sometimes referred to as thaumaturgy. I spelled that wrong. And often mislabeled as a singular when they are in fact a collection of minor magical occurrences. Thank you for the vocabulary lesson, Miss Campbellson.
Happy to help.
I have another question, Professor.
Yes, Master Sorghum, you have the floor.
Before you've mentioned that there are some who have spells named after them because they were the ones who made them.
Quite so.
Is there a restriction on those who can create spells, or can anyone who puts themselves to it hard enough bend the energy in such a way?
There are restrictions, yes, Master Sorghum, but they are more of a cultural and legal variety than of an aptitudinal variety. Now there are some concerns. You must have magical aptitude. You must understand the rules before you can reshape them, so to say. Most spells are created by wizards for precisely this reason, though the priests do tend to call them miracles. Ugh.
Say the fire was lit for me to want to create a spell.
First, you would need to determine what it is precisely you wish the spell to do. Then, I find at least it is advisable to find a spell, if one exists, that already does that thing and memorize the formulae, and if not, find something near enough, or multiple spells near enough what they do, learn them, and then slowly work to change their effects.
If you already know how to throw a ball of fire, it'd be easier to figure out how to throw a ball of lightning.
Precisely. Miss Gabelson, have you attended seminary before?
No, I've just tampered with things and it didn't work, but it was educational.
I should say so. Yes, I mean no offense whatsoever. You are not being disruptive, but would you like to take over the lecture?
No, carry on.
So, then, Rashal, say if one has the innate ability to allow others to do something better, like grant a to them, but that person also had the capability to reduce physical intake of damage and also enhance their physical capabilities. They wanted to swap those to give others the physical power. Would that be possible?
That is not something that I can answer as of this time, Master Sorghum. I am certain that it is possible, and it would require rigorous study and experimentation, and most importantly, failure. Yes, failure to ascertain what not to do, and then to apply what we want it to do. This rigorous study, note-taking, this could take weeks or months or years, depending on the gravity of the spell, and then once you have a success, you must refine the process to ensure that as few people as possible fail to recreate the desired results, and then you have a new spell on your hands.
I see. What are they doing up there? Holy shit. Sorry. A lot of weird banging coming from upstairs.
Uh-oh.
Pretty sure it's my parents, but I don't know what the fuck they're doing.
Your parents are banging upstairs?
Hey-oh.
I know what that sounds like. That's not what it is. Because I can still hear them talking, which means they're not upstairs. Or I just heard my dad mention the salon, so no.
Miss Gamson, do you have any burning questions for the druidic occupation?
Yeah, we were talking before about druids drawing energy up out of the earth, and I'm kind of curious where that comes from, like, what the source is. Unless, like, yeah, you could say the earth, the plants, the animals, all that, but it's got to start somewhere, right?
Quite, yes. It begins, perhaps a more physical and readily available example would illustrate a similar concept for magical theory. When it rains, the water goes into the ground and flows off to wherever it goes, collecting in basins and lakes and puddles, but always in transit unless it is trapped, no?
Correct.
A similar notion for magic, except instead of flowing downhill toward the sea, it flows to places that are particularly susceptible to magic, either places where large spells were produced, or places with materials oft used in spell construction, or sites of particular emotional outreach. Even lingeringly so, will collect the magic from a fireball. For example, if a fireball is cast and its murderous impact sustained, the magical energy is not consumed, it must go elsewhere, and it tends to do so in a rather vaporous form to collect once more at these locations.
Scribble, scribble, scribble.
And yes, I did just say magic cannot be created or destroyed, it just changes forms. You're welcome.
Then the question is how it got here in the first place. It's dragon turtles all the way down.
Yes, actually.
See, that is something I want to ask. Then where does magic come from?
In the specific or in the general sense of the word?
I guess the specific would be through us, but I mean, like, the energy that's focused. There can't be a sorcerer without the energy. There can't be
Without
a druid
the
without the
source.
energy. Yeah, where does it come from?
That is a question that is hotly debated in the more higher learned institutions of this world that we call home, Master Sorghum. Some say that it did not come from anywhere. It was always here, and it was necessary to create and support our diverse forms of life. Others say that there was some cataclysmic event in our world's infancy that caused magic to exist and pervade elsewhere. Still others think that it is linked to the lives and deaths of all things that, well, live and die. I, personally, think that most of that is poppycock.
Where do you propose then? Or is it just anyone's guess in your opinion?
I propose that its origin is less important than what we do with it. Does it particularly matter where the troubadour got the gold in his hat, or does it matter more that he uses it to fill his belly?
Well, say if someone were able to tap into whatever the magic itself, where the energy comes from, and their spells became stronger, wouldn't people want that to become the standard for magic?
Yes.
Or squirrel it away if it's too powerful.
And that is precisely the concern. There is a so-called god of magic, and their rise to power is rather well documented. And how do I put this? Rather grisly, besides. But even they are not the source of magic. It is the belief of this humble wizard.
Suppose for now I'll do as you said. Just focus on how I use.
Now, if you were to find an origin, that is to say, a place of power, a font of arcane energy, there is an inherent risk, certainly, but not as large a risk as finding the source. If you were to absorb its powers and apply its potentiality to your own, and bolster your strength that way. There are many such adventurers and wizards besides who do precisely that, and with success, I might add. It has even been proposed that the oft-offending Vault of Dragons is one such place, though that is entirely conjecture.
Scribble, scribble.
Equally, it can be said that the radiation, he gestures at himself, the constant leavings of magical energy affect the world around us in unpredictable, or at the very least unique ways, and more so in individuals with potent magical potentiality. There's one such figure in Waterdeep's history known as Hallister Blackcloak. Yes, Hallister Blackcloak was a near unparalleled wizard, sorcerer born and then turned to study, and his command of magic rivaled that even of Lord Mordenkainen. And it is said that in his fugue, that he preferred state of insanity over academia. That the world around him would distort in the same way, and swallowed up an entire town, in fact, and now the undergrounds of Waterdeep are susceptible to the whims of that magical induced insanity that we call the Dungeon of the Mad Mage. Durnan is the current gatekeeper of such locale.
Angry eyes at Pierce.
Have I offended, Master Salcom?
Oh, no. It's just outstanding situation that
You're not
we can
intending
discuss later.
to descend into the aforementioned dungeon, are you?
Not in the state we're currently in.
Yeah, we're not gonna go yet.
Yet, says Master Salcom.
It'll be a good long while before any of us feel ready to go down there.
Perhaps the matter with the vault first?
Certainly.
Master Parnassus, you are rather quiet this eve. Have you any, pardon my pun, burning questions for the topic on the floor?
And Lawrence would just smile a little bit at the pun because, it's Rashal and puns. But he'd sigh and say, ever since these jokers showed up, he gestures the rest of them. Ever since these guys showed up, Durnan's been telling me we're not ready to even get anywhere close to going down the portal. I prefer to avoid that as long as possible. I kind of like being alive.
I quite agree with the soundness of your thinking, Master Parnassus, but I meant questions regarding magical theory or personal practice thereof.
As to that question, nothing really that hasn't already been covered. I don't know how much the others have mentioned, but Amber Ridge was very quiet for us. Not a lot of practice, as Pierce may have possibly mentioned. And, well, any gestures to his burn. I didn't have a lot of discipline growing up, so anything to improve our capabilities in that regard would be very welcome.
Many practicing magists in various forms find it useful to use a conduit for their focus and abilities. Staves, crystals, orbs, wands, they serve no particular purpose, save from the odd holding an enchantment to do a specific task. They simply serve as a form of meditation for a given spellcaster. There are those who incorrectly say that they cannot cast spells at all without their trusty arcane focus.
Just so, and growing up, I didn't have one.
You have one now, Master Parnassus. I have several in stock that I could...
Yes, I do have one, Rashal, but I do appreciate the offer.
Well, if you require an
that being
replacement,
said,
though understand that it is the magical equivalent of a sugar pill.
Just so. However, every little bit helps, I suppose.
It certainly can't hurt, unless of course you find yourself without it and need to deal with the aforementioned murderous bandit.
Quite. But
I think
that is what practice is for.
I quite agree. There is no substitute whatsoever for proper education, study, and laboratory practice. You were saying, Miss Gambleton.
Just changing the subject slightly.
Of course.
Before she passed, my grandma told me about some areas in the world where magic just doesn't work, like, at all. What would cause something like that?
The so-called divines. There are charms, which is just a fancy word for a specific type of spell that, in effect, scatter magical energies and the formulae required to draw upon them from the minds of the caster, sometimes so subtly that it seems as if the land itself is rejecting it. The short answer is magic. Magic defeats magic, unfortunately.
Scribble, scribble.
As for where to start, Master Koi, here is a good place to begin. Do you have even a simple task that you think would be improved by magic?
Well, given my, and he puts up two fingers, profession, lockpicks can get expensive.
There is a charm that can assist you, rather minor, often affectionately referred to as knock, that can simply open a lock, no matter how complicated, in some cases, even of the magical variety.
Well, I suppose that'd be something to focus on, and if I have the magical ability within me, maybe move on from that.
Not the first spell that I would set a new student upon the path to memorizing, but if the inspiration is there, I don't see why not. I would warn you, Master Koi, it will be incredibly taxing at first, with no tangible result. But if you keep at it and apply yourself, I don't see why such things would be beyond you. That being said, arcane wards are rather expensive, and the only enchantress I know who can freely apply them is one Archmage Stonemarrow, and we all know how well that conversation will go, so I would appreciate it if you didn't go about destroying the locks here at the Bookworm's Treasure.
No, of course.
That should remind me, knock does not necessarily open the lock so much as removes it.
So it's more of a, this needs to be moved now.
Or, at the very least, we'll leave evidence of your arrival.
I have another suggestion, if that's a little too obvious.
By all means, Miss Gamberson.
If your picks keep breaking, maybe mending would be useful.
Or simply warding them against where? He pulls the glasses off the end of his nose and wiggles them and says, these will never shatter, because I am, you may have noticed, the occasional klutz. He puts it back on the bridge of his nose and smirks.
I know that pain.
But with a few wards, they are oft called, and the proper recitations, I never need worry about standing on my glasses. Actually, I think you would say spectacles. I need never worry about standing upon my spectacles. Because of course he has magic glasses.
Because of course he does.
Naturally.
Oh, I've got one.
Master Salcom.
There was that time, Brain, that you got into a fight with someone, and you and someone else got into a fight in a sewer against someone. That person hurt, and you didn't have any potions.
That was true. I had to haul him back today.
If magic could have made that a lot easier.
Yeah. Some sort of a healing touch would have helped as well.
A healing touch or the proper words can do wonders, though the latter tends to be a bit more powerful than the former. Wait,
If it's healing you want, I can definitely help you out there.
unfortunately, such magics are a discipline beyond my own. And wizards do not often practice the healing arts, and as such, our abilities in that area are drastically reduced to the point of ineffectuality.
Now, Professor, you're going to tell me that I'm more disciplined in a school of magics than you are?
Certainly. And there is a school of which you are superior to Miss Gambleson and Master Averill, and there are schools in which they are superior to you.
That makes sense.
I believe, Master Sorghum, that superficially I know more about muses and the power of song, so to say, than you do in terms of academia. But in its application, you are certainly my superior. I am a scholar, not an artist.
Oh, some would say that's an art in its own form.
And I would not disagree with them, Master Koi, but the distinction is still relevant.
Agreed. No, if I was to start anywhere, I'd probably say something with simpler, like a cantrip. And what would you say would be a good one to start with?
I would say a collection would be the simplest means to start. Excuse me, my nose is full of bullshit for some reason. A collection, oft referred to as a single spell, oft referred to as prestidigitation, is in fact close to a dozen, or even a baker's dozen, individual charms that do very small things. I would honestly recommend that anyone begin there, if at all possible, because they are very little energy required and very little chance of undercliff.
Like bread and McDonald's. No. Start with prestidigitation then.
And then he just like rummages under his desk and he pulls out a spell book, and you recognize it immediately as the little spell book that Pierce traded in.
Mm-hmm.
I think he traded that in here. I'm pretty sure he did. And he says, "You might recognize this tome, Master Koi. I do believe that you could make use of it." He sets it on the counter. He says, "And I would be willing to sell it to you for as much as I paid, or if you prefer, you could rent it for a time for a reduced rate."
How much was it you paid for it again?
I don't remember. But I think it was like 100 gold, because he got like a spell book and a bunch of materials with it.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds about right from my memory.
From what I can think of, yeah. Which, if Braden wanted to do, Sockham could totally help.
If something a bit more immediate is the goal, Master Koi, I could give you some tomes on culture and teach you how to the basics of pact magistry, if you prefer.
Probably start with a pact magistry.
It's rather one or the other, I fear, but fraught with peril, but certainly rewarding in its own right. And I want Braden to multi-class into Warlock so badly. Oh my god.
That sounds the coolest.
The question is with whom?
That would be the question.
That's the trick.
I mean, the easiest choice is usually Celestial, because they don't ask too much. Just don't be a shit. That also doesn't fit Braden that well, because
I mean, there's a difference between being a shit and being, underhanded.
Mm-hmm.
Braden is underhanded. Braden is not generally a shit.
The treaties on pact magic, I think, would be a good place to start, Master Koi, before we begin the ins and outs of selecting a patron. I have a copy ready for sale for 30 dragons.
I go but nod and
Want me to spot that, Braden?
Heck, I can spot that.
I mean, at the moment, no, because I already made the mistake of jumping into something too quickly. I'd rather learn a bit more of what each of them entail first.
What has your interest, Master Koi? Perhaps I can be of assistance. If Braden were to multi-class into a spellcaster, what would it be?
Not that we're pressuring you to, but
No, absolutely. I'm just
Theoretically.
curious. If you want to go straight rogue or go rogue fighter or whatever, like that's fine. Like that's on you. But I'm just wondering, like, if he did, what would it be?
What would it be?
Braden the Paladin. No.
I wasn't
Be a
gonna.
dust paladin. If anything.
Braden the Druid. No.
Vengeance Paladin. I want to fight my mom.
Braden has an elf.
Unfortunately, that would work.
I feel
If
like
any-
Hexblade might work for Braden if he's interested in Warlock.
oh great! Now we'll have two talking axes.
Right? Yeah.
If anything, it'd probably be Wizard because it's got the most options.
Totally should have taken.
I actually, Wizard doesn't have the most options. If you want the most options, jokes aside, it's Sorcerer.
Oh yeah.
But I'm not letting someone multi-class into Sorcerer because you have to be born a Sorcerer.
Yeah.
Or have some sort of like big life-altering event.
Yes.
I.e. Arcane Storm.
True, but you didn't get zapped, didn't get Sorcerer levels from that.
No.
Yeah, you just got your ass eaten by mounds a lot.
Mhm.
In Soviet Waterdeep, mounds eat you.
Now I want candy. Oh wait, I have Butterfinger right in front of me. I'm good.
Like eat?
Gummy bears are lit.
Sorry, I'm now looking through Hexblade because it's caught my attention, and God, Braden doing a sneak attack with Wrathful Smite would be terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
There's stabbing death, then there's that.
God, you get 4 smites as a Hexblade?
It sounds like you're all trying to convince me to go for Warlock.
I think personally, I think it fits Braden the most, but it's completely your call.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's entirely your call.
On it.
I'm just saying, this double.
I suppose it'd be something I need to look into.
So, if you
I
buy
got
the treaties from Rashal, if you buy the treaties on Pack Magic from Rashal,
Mhm.
there's no risk. There's no inherent risk. Like, you're not gonna get poked by law and be like, "I'm a spider with titties, eh?" But like, it will give you an academic entry point. It will give you the thing that you're talking about.
Yeah. I'll take the book on the
Okay.
trees.
Do you have a treaties on Pact Magic in your inventory?
And minus 30 gold.
Which I'll pass you the book. He says, "If it's not to your liking, Master Koi, and you don't injure the tome in some way, I would be willing to refund your money. Minus a bit for expenditures, of course.
Of course. Thank you very much, Rochelle.
So, to continue on with the lecture for the evening, Master Shorkham, do you have any questions about muses or the bolstering of your comrades, perhaps?
Kind of.
Well, the floor is most assuredly yours.
When I was younger, and even now, I planned to go to colleges. A college for bard work. And I heard word that bards can do vastly different things magically. Those that are magically inclined can do things differently depending on their college.
Just so, it goes back to disciplines. Within each of these, and he gestures at the board again, within each of these there are sub-categories, certainly.
Is there a limit on the number of ways one can mutate energies?
It depends on their education, their aptitude, their overall health, the length of their life, and the experiences that they've shared.
I see.
So, yes, there is, but your limit could be vastly different from Master Parnassus, or Miss Campbellson, or Master Averil, or Melun War Dragon. What did you have in mind?
Well, in my rather dim-witted thinking, if one can gain strength through knowledge, even a bard through their college of choice, what is it that restricts a bard from stopping at a single college?
The promise of coin, mostly. The desire to specialize is often enough to keep someone grounded in the here and now and specific.
See. Are there similar limitations for those that carry pack?
Those limitations are generally more literal in the sense. One does not often want the prize-winning baker of the pumpkin patch to moonlight over at the raisin bun.
See. So it's a form of employment almost.
It's a very good way to think about it, in much the same way that adventuring is a form of employment. Aye.
I always feel so silly doing these games because I realize I'm emoting, but there's no way to.
So am I. So is Grace. Like,
Yeah. Right over here.
Rochelle gesticulates like crazy. Like, it's insane.
I just sat here for a solid minute. Sat here for a solid minute, mildly scowling, scratching my chin. Chin kind of hurts.
Then stop scratching it.
I did stop.
Says as she starts scratching her head.
There's also the matter of availability, Master Sock'em. There's colleges, specialities for the bard, or bardic disciplines at the very least, tend to be scattered, in a word.
See. Is there a limitation on the number of draws a caster can pull from? Like, could someone call themselves a druid, because they draw magic from the earth, have a pact, and are a wizard, such as yourself. Could they be all three of those?
I don't see why they couldn't, but given the amount of study and discipline and specialized training in each one, if, say, you had talents as a wizard, a pact, and a druidic aptitude, and Miss Gambleson was strictly druidic in nature, and you had the same experiences, I would argue that Miss Gambleson would be the stronger.
So becoming a jack of all isn't necessarily good.
Quite.
Suppose it's like proper combat then.
I would say more like vigorous exercise than combat, but one could certainly argue to a certain mindset that combat is vigorous exercise, yes.
Interesting.
Do you have a specific bardic discipline that you know of that you would seek our institution therein? That such a process can take years, Master Sorghum. You would have to. You would have to separate from your associates.
Well, like Lawrence, I'll have to go off on my own adventure eventually.
Somehow we still managed to show up.
I've always been a tad dim-witted, but the thought of entering a college of those that seek to, shall we say, negate such problems, is kind of what I'm after.
I would say, Master Holcomb, your first point of contention, your first heroic labor, so to say, should be to change your way of thinking. Not that you are particularly slow-witted, or that you are known for simple thought processes, but ignore all of that. Ignore the existence of it or the difficulties that you face, and instead focus on where your strengths lie. The power within your hands, and I would say equally as importantly, within your heart. You, more so than any of your associates, with the possible exception of Master Parnassus, have by far the largest heart.
I mean, Lawrence is over here trying not to blush furiously.
I think Sockham lightly lights up like a little Christmas bulb.
Mm-hmm.
Because of the gray complexion, he doesn't exactly blush, he just kind of...
Exactly, it just kind of like lightens, yeah.
Focus on that which is, not what could be.
Or, is so often the case in this mortal existence, what cannot be. And I don't mean to imply that you cannot improve your academic abilities, Master Sorghum, but there are many who focus not on what might be, but what can't be at all, and choose to focus all of their energies on these things that cannot exist, and it is a tragedy, frankly. It is not something that I would wish upon my greatest foe.
Brings an interesting question to mind. Are there spells that exist that are, shall we say, forbidden?
Necromancy.
Such things have cultural and historical significance. There are places where healing magic is outlawed. This is speaking that is the realm of the divine, and not for mortals in which for them to dabble. Likewise,
Connie's looking at him like, "Wait, what? Really? Oh my god!"
there are places such as Waterdeep that are more fiendish or more necromantic or otherwise darker aspects are vilified. And in some cases, rightfully so. In others, it's less fortuitous.
I should shorten the scope of my question. I don't mean specific schools, spells, like I cast Explode Heart.
I would rather you did not do such thing, Master Sorghum, and if you obtained that manuscript, I should very much like to take it off your hands for a more than fair rate, I assume. Did we lose a Gamzee?
Sorry. My legs hurt. My legs hurt, and I have to be careful about where I step because of all the water.
Alright.
See.
Where did you come upon such a formulae as Explode Heart?
It was just an example, though I have no doubt a talented wizard could come up with it.
I have no doubt that such a manuscript exists and is likely locked away in Blackstaff Tower.
I'd believe it.
Oh,
Makes sense.
If I ever come across something like that, I'll be sure to make a trip back here to give it to you.
I would say I would frankly prefer that to be in the hands of the Archmage Zafar, but if there are no one else to obtain such an item, I would happily dispose of it for you. There are... I hesitate to use the word humane, but there are humane and inhumane uses of spells, especially when affecting someone else, that are it darkens the mind to consider. There are things that can be done with the proper application of will and manifestation of magical energies that are evil, frankly.
Like mind control.
Sometimes.
Still, I fear.
I remember a time. Sorry.
I suppose sometimes people get so caught up in what they can do, they forget about what they ought to do.
Quite. It has been said that certain so-called mad wizards were so preoccupied with whether or not they could, they did not consider whether or not they should. So says Archmage Goldblum.
What did you say?
Oh my god, Fox.
Oh, for fuck's sake, I think I hurt myself.
At the worst time for me.
That was so...
Congratulations.
I knew it was coming, and it still hit me.
Congratulations, Fox. We have just found out there's a limit on what I can use my feet for.
They say.
I quoted Jurassic Park and then attributed it to Archmage Goldblum.
I think I hurt myself laughing.
Mama fucking Mia. Also, I see a Nightfall. In Roll20.
He's been there the whole time.
Oh, has he? I didn't
Yep.
know that.
Drat, you got my hopes up.
So, I would rather not remain on this topic over long, Master Sorghum, but permit me, if at all possible, to inform you that, yes, there are diabolical uses for even commonplace spells that I could not in good conscience instruct you in the use of.
Of course.
Create water comes to mind, and it's a proposition that I wish that I had never borne witness to.
I mean, you got Lawrence is probably over there shuddering at the prospect.
Useful in the desert, though.
Hmm?
Useful in the desert, though.
You cut out twice in the same place.
Useful in a desert, though.
Well, there are things that magic is a boon for, and things that it is a bane for, as with a knife, or an axe, or a coin, even.
Hello?
Hello.
Oh, darling, everything went quiet. I freaked out.
Oh dear.
Oof.
But two lighter matters. I am here to educate and instruct each of you in furthering the depths of your magical affinities. If there's any other questions burning within each of you, or theories that you would like to present, I can certainly set you upon the path to realizing them.
I think Connie raises a hand again.
Miss Gambleson, I would say you're commanding all of the attention, but there is only 6 of you, so...
Sorry, I was just wondering, on a personal note, which of the schools you find the most interesting?
For me personally, evocation has always been rather fascinating to me. I do like to dazzle, as my pantomime of academia here today might illustrate. I've always been partial to the flash and the large bang, so to say.
Lawrence is probably doing a slow head tilt, and it's so. I heard this from some travelers a while back. Go big or go home.
I prefer the slightly more refined version of that, which is there is no such thing as overkill.
Just so.
But if I have adequately covered any questions or topics that you may have burning within you, I suppose we could collect the notes and begin the quiz.
I do have one more before we
There's a
continue.
quiz?
Wait,
Certainly,
tests?
there's a
I don't do
quiz.
tests. Well,
it's a lesson, my friend. Of course, there would be a question and answer at the end of the program.
but I do have one more question.
Of course.
If there's a god of magic, why hasn't any clerics asked the burning questions about magic and its source and whatnot?
Because, as I have tried to make plain, the divines, or so-called divines, are often more full of themselves and allow people to venerate them needlessly. The current god of magic was placed into its position due to circumstances, not any particularly grand destiny besides, and frankly, I don't believe it knows.
I see.
So,
Fuck.
go on.
No, I was just saying, fuck, that sucks.
So, Shaw reaches under the counter and he pulls out a sand hourglass and a stack of papers. He says, we will move on directly to the aforementioned quiz. Master Parnassus, if you would kindly pass these out to your associates while I remove the notes from the board here.
And Lawrence takes it and starts doling things out.
Yep.
Good little student
So
that he
you
is.
each get a stack of papers, and he says, "It would be most unfortunate and inopportune if you were to be caught looking at your notes during the quiz. Now, for the sake of it, whilst you are all filling them out, I will be asking specific questions to specific members of the KnightLites. So, grabs the hourglass. Quills at the ready, if you please. Flips the hourglass over. You may begin. Everybody make an intelligence saving throw.
Oh shit!
Guess who's gonna fail? Like everything. You said save?
Yeah, an intelligence saving throw.
Ah.
Oh, why?
I'd like to move the veil a bit and say -1.
Oh no.
Let me roll for Rock and Brightwind. I need a roll from Rock. I'm gonna roll for Piers.
I use my inspiration on that.
I think the answer
If
to
you
this
want to
one
use
is
your
no.
inspiration on a fucking OVA, you're welcome to do so, but I don't recommend it.
Then yeah. Alright.
I was so tempted to do the exact. It would have been cheating. I was about to ask something, but that would have been totally cheating.
What were you about to ask?
Could Stockham give himself bardic inspiration?
You could, except for the fact that doing so is audible and you glow. Do you want to risk that?
And Rashal will give you such a dirty look over that.
Do you want to risk that?
I don't know if that's in character or not.
I still think it's
God.
something roll for sneak.
Try to get out of the room.
It totally is his thing, so I guess so.
Okay.
He-
Okay, so do me a favor, and make a wisdom saving throw.
Oh no!
That's so perfect. So you start to give yourself bardic inspiration, and Rashal like whips around and just chucks the eraser at your head, beams it right off your head, and at the same time casts counterspell on you, and the bardic inspiration just goes away.
Oh shit!
So Sokam has this like eraser mark on his head with chalk, and he wasted a bardic inspiration.
That's fair.
Now, Master Sokam, that is not entirely sporting to your fellow quiz takers. So, and also, I'll go ahead and talk about your guys' saves. This is so perfect because Lawrence rolled the highest, which means this is so good. The rest of you can't read the fucking tests because it's in Waterdeepian script.
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
It does.
I love it.
In fairness, Rashal, I was doing that to see if it could teach me how to read Waterdeepian.
Bren's just sitting there, fists clenched, holding the quill, looking at the paper like fuck.
Connie didn't read any of it, so she's writing all her answers as nonsense in Druidic.
This is entirely my fault, my friends. I will rectify this promptly. And he like snaps his fingers, and all of your tests just immolate, burn away. We shall
And
move
Lawrence looks at it like, aww.
to the verbal portion of the test, which I think will be a great deal more fair. Miss Gambleson, would you like to be our first proverbial volunteer?
All right.
What are the 9 schools of magic discussed here today? You need to name at least 6 of them.
See, universal, transmutation, divination, abjuration, illusion, enchantment, necromancy, and what's the last one? And she like starts chewing on her finger as she thinks.
Well, you got 6 of them. Miss Gambleson, you needn't remember the last, so well done. A point for you. Master Coy,
Yes.
what is the difference between a Knight of the Eldritch and a Paladin?
And then a Knight of the Eldritch.
Mhm.
Shit.
Can anyone assist Master Coy? No one?
Connie like puts a finger up like sheepishly.
Miss Gambleson, with the rescue.
A paladin is more cleric-y and an eldritch knight is more wizardy.
Not the words that I would have chosen, but credit where it is due, all the same. So, yes. A point to you, Miss Gambleson. Master Coy, you should...
Brendan would just hang his head out. I was going to say the Knight of the Eldritch was more warlocky, but
So, Master Sockham,
Yes.
what is a muse, and what is it for?
A muse is an artistic representation, usually made by bards, as some form of catalyst for magic, or a creation of magic or nature that a bard can use for magic.
Partial credit. It is not created by the bard, it is utilized by the bard, and is often semi-sapient.
Close. Close enough for me.
Master Parnassus,
Yes?
what is a mystic?
A fraud.
Does Sockham say that?
Probably. He doesn't have any other point of reference other than Rashal.
Partial credit, do not answer for someone else unless called upon. Master Parnassus.
I'm trying not to giggle myself to death because Lawrence would probably answer something even snarkier,
You're
but he's trying to be polite.
Master Parnassus, your repurposed question is thus. Of what school is the rather correctly named Fireball spell?
And, he's trying to think for a second, because, wait, crap. And he has to stammer and think for him. He says, evocation?
Point to you, Miss Hines. Yes. Right, now, to the room, to any of you. My question is this. Who amongst you has the potential for magic?
all of us.
Well done, Master Coy.
I was about to say, trick question.
All of the above.
All of the above, indeed. And
Considering
finally, who amongst you has the ability and affinity to use their magical potentiality as a powerful force for good in Waterdeep and beyond?
Everyone but Brett.
Again, all of us. If we put our minds to it.
Just so. Takes his fez off, sets it on the counter in front of him.
He wears the fez.
He did. I specifically mentioned it today. He doesn't usually.
Oh my god, I fucking love it.
He's been wearing a blue and gold robes that he doesn't usually wear, with a blue and gold fez with a tassel on it the whole time.
Oh, that is the cutest shit.
Yeah, right? Takes the fez off, sets it on the counter, and he says, I thank you,
And it's great.
my friends, for indulging me today, and I hope that it proved an educational experience and that I haven't lost too much of the academic propensity that I used to wield.
I would say you've done very well. Definitely opened my eyes to how in-depth magic can be.
I feel educated, and I'm far more scared of the world than I was before.
It was not my...
Yeah, you know more about the world, so you can better tackle it.
I'm kidding. I feel a lot more prepared to face magic than before.
I would leave you with one last piece of advice given to me by my mentor. May it serve you well if you ever find yourself once more in an Undercliff incident. Countercharms should always be utilized and memorized before the charm itself.
And Lawrence is nodding sagely, like, yep.
Had I proper time to prepare and any desire whatsoever to throw myself into danger, I could have been used to you in Undercliff. And for my absence, I do sincerely apologize.
And Lawrence would probably, pat him on the shoulder. It's like, no one's faulting you, Rashal. You couldn't have known, and we certainly didn't until we got there.
I feel like Sokkum stands up with the plan of giving Rashal a hug and the
Just
desk.
knock the desk over.
My thought was the desk comes up with it.
Papers and the fucking ink pot falls off the desk and you just lift it off the desk. Rashal looks up and says, Master Sokkum, it seems there's a bit of a maelstrom about your person at present.
Or it's probably lunging for the inkwell.
It's all over the floor.
Well, it's thinking more, possibly shattering the inkwell.
Oh no, it's a metal inkwell. It's not glass.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure if it's glass.
Hey Lawrence, what did that old merchant woman that showed up to Amberage call me? A bull in a china shop?
Boy, did she have a list.
I hope also that you could take some of the lessons that I give you to heart, even if I may be mistaken. I do mean well, my friends, and equally so with Archmage Stonemarrow. Do remember the gravity of this discussion and do apply it to the good Archmage.
Of course.
I think this has been quite enough excitement for one day, and I shall leave you to your notes and to your perusing. The till is open if you wish to make a purchase. I believe I will go and make myself some tea upstairs. He picks up his fez and starts to walk towards the stairs.
Lawrence would probably follow to offer to help clean up and all that. Because work's done for the day, so.
No. You should discuss your theories with your peers. It is an important step in the academic process, Master Parnassus.
Just so. Thank you, Rashal.
Yeah, thanks.
Of course.
Sincerely, my friend, this was amazing.
Yes, well.
Illuminating.
There aren't many such teachers in Waterdeep anymore. That is more's the shame. And he heads upstairs, leaving you guys alone in the shop to discuss what you learned, if you so desire.
I'm sorry, what was that last thing he said?
He says there's not many such teachers in Waterdeep anymore, and it's more the shame.
So who wants to help me make a new spell?
And he raises a hand.
I mean, Lawrence would probably, step over to Bray and say, so let's go look at those treatises and see if we can figure something out.
Yeah, pretty good idea to look for.
What spell did you have in mind, Salcom?
Well, I said make a new spell.
What effect did you have in mind?
Bardic Inspiration, but Rage.
What?
What?
Using the method...
Actually granting rage to everyone else?
Granting my rages to other people.
There is a frenzy spell. It exists.
Oh.
It is not good. It's frenzy is the type of thing you cast on someone else, not a friend.
Yeah, it's...
I wanted to make one that could be used on a friend, but if there's something that already does a worse version of that...
Generally speaking, you don't want to grant class features to someone else with magic, because that's just a recipe for a headache for the DM.
Oh yeah.
And isn't frenzy like a good way to commit mass murder by proxy?
Yes!
I thought so. I was like, wait a minute, this sounds familiar.
That's fair enough.
But if you have other spells in mind, we can discuss them. See, usually when somebody goes, I want to make a spell, usually it's, I want to palette swap Fireball. I want to cast Fireball, but, like, poison. Like, that shit's easy.
Like, acid splash is a fireball. Oh, God.
Ooh. Yikes.
A good way to fuck up a lot of people real fast. And all the surrounding construction.
Like, I can palette swap any of Lawrence's spells to fire. I've done so already.
Mm-hmm.
Like, do you have, like, an actual, like, spell you have in mind that doesn't involve class abilities?
Kind of.
Go on.
The other day I mentioned one that I was calling Word of Exhaustion.
That exists. It's called Ray of Sickness.
Ray of Sickness does that?
Yes.
Okay, that's good to know, actually. I have a lot of ideas, but I need to sort through them, I guess.
You have a lot of ideas, you need to make sure they don't already exist, mate.
Yeah. And that are not just flavor changed versions.
Flavor change versions are completely fine. 110% flavor change versions are fine. If you want to make a spell that's like just a palette swapped Scorching Ray, we can have that conversation, because that is so much easier than trying to grant your class ability to other people.
Yeah. Well, I have to go through my other ideas. Shit.
One of my favorite spells. It's not mine. I didn't make it, but I've utilized it and I've transposed it into D&D for myself and for other people. Is one spell absorbs all debuffs from an area around you. Like, you just collect all the debuffs. So confusion, burning, whatever. And then another spell gives all of your debuffs to the target.
Basically tanking everything and then transference.
Yes.
A while
And
back,
our words know you.
a while back, I came up with a spell called Birch's Blasted Hiccups.
Oh God.
Oh, Lord.
It's a little bit like Tasha's Hideous Laughter, but instead of being incapacitated, it deals damage if you fail your saves low enough.
God.
I do have one that I didn't make. I found it and I really liked it, and I'm not exactly
That's fine, go on.
nearly long enough for it. I just gotta scroll up to it in my
Change
little
charm
list.
person to inflame person? No. No.
That's just the Sypha Fireball from Castlevania Season 2.
Yeah, I was about to say, that's just fireball with extra steps.
Come on, where are you, kid?
Gonna say it's like heat metal just without the metal.
Heat. I'm waiting for somebody to make a heat flesh spell. That's just awesome.
Oh no!
If it
Oh, yeah, that
If it-
just explodes vampires, doesn't it?
Yeah,
if
it
it,
does.
if it gives you any indication of what it is, it's called id dungeon.
Go on.
I can't find the explanation, and that's really frustrating me.
Then why did you
Um,
like it if you don't know what it does?
Because I have the exact wording put away somewhere, and it's pissing me off because I'm.
Okay, don't
can't
worry about the
find
exact
it.
wording. The question is, what does it do?
It's like putting someone through a loop. It's like putting someone through PT, like that the game PT, the
Mm-hmm.
walking sim. On a failed save, they pretty much go through. Except it feels like months and months and months and months.
There's a
when they
spell that
take-
does that. You don't need to
Is
make a.
there
There is literally
really?
a spell that does that.
Fuck. Well, at least that one I didn't make myself. Alright, I don't know. I'll have to go through my rest of my ideas and get.
There is an extensive spell list, friend.
I keep looking at the spell list, and I keep thinking, like, the Ranger level 1 stuff would suit Braden really well.
Mm-hmm.
Detect magic, detect poison.
Mm-hmm.
So, how are we going to close the book on this story, friends? Are you guys just going to pack up your things, talk amongst yourselves, and head back out into Waterdeep to continue your adventure?
I think that'd probably make the most sense. I mean, Loris would probably stay behind to pick up a little bit, but
Alrighty. So, you guys clean up, put your notes away, armed with a greater knowledge and understanding of how magic works and how to utilize it in your adventures. We close the book on Rashal's XTRA Wizard 101. And let's do some shoutouts besides, shall we? Tracy, start us off, won't you?
hi there, everyone. I'm Trey Scare. I played Lawrence tonight, and I play Lawrence every Sunday. And if you liked what you saw here, however small a part it was, then I would highly recommend you keep coming back repeatedly through the course of the week. Not only is there D&D on Sunday, but there's Hitting the Books with Kit and Gamzee on Wednesdays. There's Witcher on Saturday, and there's so much more to come. So, if you like it, hit me up on the Discord. I'm always hanging around there. And if you need something knit that's soft and fluffy, come find me.
Thank you very much. Delta, give us a shout out.
Yep, I'm Delta, your resident Mad Scotsman. You'll find me hanging about Kit's channel, doing mod stuff, playing Warframe, Destiny, whatever other game I'm deciding to play that day. If you ever need a hand, give me a shout and I'll see if I can help.
Brightwind is here, but can't talk. You can find him at all over these places. He does art for the channel, does art for himself besides, and is currently undergoing some audio issues. We hope to get those resolved sooner rather than later. We miss him in Dice-Icive action, even if he's sitting 5 feet away. Gracie, give us a shout out.
Hey, I'm Gracie, aka Birchmila. I do love art and things for Kids channel, and I also love tabletops. So much and so, in fact, tomorrow I'm going to help Kit prepare his games. If you want to watch that. But yeah, if you want to hear me blather some more, give me a poke.
Gamzee?
ladies and gentlemen, as always, I'm the bard, and I'm Guy Gamzee, the bard in training. Getting ahead of myself, as always. Uh, and I'd advertise it, but it looks like I already did a little bit before the show, and it seems Trayscare's already beaten me to it. So remember, DM me your question, the questions burning within your heart, if you have any. Or just DM me if you want to chat, dog. I'm down.
For my
Yeah.
part, as ever, I am the sharp-eyed Kitsune, the teller of tales and the weaver of mysteries, the masked bard. This is a channel that is devoted to lore and storytelling, world-building, role-playing, and discussions of those things. So if that's your fancy, you're in excellent company here, and I do hope that you enjoyed your time with us. This has been a very special extra episode of our Sunday night campaign, Dice-Icive Action into Waterdeep, featuring the KnightLites. I'm aware that it's Monday night, but we had the wizarding story to tell, and we couldn't fit it into the regular schedule, so we decided to do an extra show. We do this occasionally with Dice-Icive Action, and with Waterdeep in specific. I stream every single day that my health permits me to do so. We have video games in the afternoon, and I'm currently working through Control, starting at 1 p.m. established stream time, or New York time if you need to use proper time zones. And then we do something tabletop related in the evening. The Monday slot very soon will be taken up by Dice-Icive Action Crown of Fangs, a Tomb of Annihilation story that will be starting in about a month and a half, or less even, right here at the same time. Tomorrow in the evening, we've got Grandmaster preparations. Because I do so many tabletop games, and because I GM most of them, I need to take some time to prepare, update the overlays, build encounters, make notes for the various games that we play, and I do all of that on Tuesday nights. So stop by for Control in the afternoon, or hitting the books, no, or Grandmaster preparations in the evening if you like tabletop role-playing games, or if you don't know if you like tabletop role-playing games, we would love to have you. For now, it's getting late, and I need to leave you all with these parting words. From myself, my keepers, and those joining me on the stage this evening, to all of you, the regulars, the followers, the newcomers, and the lurkers, whether you're just having a seat by the fire or you've got a running tab at the bar, remember, there's always more stories to tell. And hopefully, I'll see you all tomorrow as we get back into Control and prepare for our various stories with a new chapter. Good night, you guys. Thank you so much for stopping by, and hope to see you again soon.